TopMedTalk.
And we are back, day 3 of the Anesthesiology Annual Meeting of the American Society of Anesthesiologists. We are live in person in the exhibit hall here in sunny San Diego. I'm Desiree Chappell, your host. I'm joined by my co-host, Professor Monty Mythen from the University College London, and Editor-in-Chief of TopMedTalk, Monty Mythen.
Desiree, thank you very much. Great to be here.
It is great to be here, Monty. I think I've been now saying that too many times.
What, University College London?
Yeah.
Well, at least though it's not University College of London.
No,
yeah,
it's not.
Well
it's
done,
not.
yeah.
Monty, it's been a great meeting.
Fantastic meeting. I say everyone really excited to see each other in person. Apologies again to those people who can't be with us, but physically, but we're getting there. And it looks like the world is getting back to some kind of normality.
A little bit of semblance of normal, yes. And Professor Sol Aronson. Hello, Sol.
Good to see you. It's been a pleasure to just be here.
It is.
In the real. It is a great conference. And we've had some terrific sessions and interviews over the last 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, TopMedTalk is the broadcasting arm of evidence-based perioperative medicine. Monty, just really quickly.
So EBPOM, Evidence-Based Perioperative Medicine, started 24 years ago, 25th anniversary next year. A group of enthusiasts that's grown to be a global organisation who are interested in the perioperative care of patients from the moment of contemplation of surgery through to complete recovery.
That's right.
And TopMedTalk is our broadcasting arm.
That's right. And on TopMedTalk and at our EBPOM meetings, we talk about everything, right? From everything. Yeah, in the perioperative space, everything really healthcare focused.
We have almost no boundaries.
Almost.
We have some.
And we've pushed. We do.
Yeah, we do. Well, today, we've been having amazing conversations, a lot with people who are in the room, but we've also been bringing people in as well to continue the conversation, to continue to expand where we're heading in perioperative medicine. So we're really excited about our conversation today. We have Alex Lewis from Koalaa and the Alex Lewis Trust. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, Alex, tell us just a little bit more about the trust or foundation and Koalaa.
So I lost all 4 of my limbs to strep A back in 2013, early 2014. So I lost both legs above the knee, my left arm above the elbow. They tried to save my right arm, but sadly I was to break that 6 months later, and I lost my right arm below the elbow. And I assumed I was going to get some really great prosthetics on the NHS, but when it came round to my rehab and what was available, it was clear that there was a big disparity in what I thought I was going to get and what I was actually going to receive. So I ended up going out to Oklahoma to Hanger, getting a life quote there. And I remember, I think my life quote to get me from 35 to 60 was about $3.5 million, I think, then. Oh, and gosh. I remember getting on the plane with my other half, and we were in complete disbelief at the cost of my new disability. So when I got back to the UK, I really didn't know what to do, where to turn to. It was a pretty dark time. And I randomly met a student at Imperial College who was looking for guinea pigs in something that he was calling muscle whispering technology. And I had no idea what that meant, but I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. End user led research sounds interesting. So I spent a lot of time with him up in Imperial, and that's where I was to meet Nate, who is the founder of Koalaa. Now Nate was a very excitable puppy dog of a chap who came sort of bounding over saying, I'm going to make you the best prosthetic you've ever seen in your entire life. It's going to have moving fingers, it's going to have a moving thumb, it's going to have a wrist unit, it's going to have a soft socket. And I said, oh, okay, great. Well, how long have you got to build such an incredible bit of kit? And he went, well, there's about 4 of us and we've got 6 months. And I thought, oof, okay, I think my words were good luck. And over the course of the next 6 months, I would go back into Imperial and I'd talk to the guys about what they were trying to achieve. And the end result, if Nate was on the call, I think he would agree, but the end result was terrible. It really wasn't fit for purpose. And it didn't work very well. It was never going to be something that I would ever dream of wearing in any circumstance. But Nate, to his credit, came back to me after the project and said, look, I know we were wildly off, in your expectations on our project, but what as a user would you require for a below elbow prosthetic? And I said, well, if you can marry affordable, functional and comfortable, you'll be onto something pretty good.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he's listened to me from the start, which is probably the only person in my life that's listened to me from the beginning. And he's managed to come up with all sorts of different iterations of the Koalaa, and it's a soft shell prosthetic. It's the trainer of prosthesis, really, which so I think Nate set Koalaa up about 18 months ago. And there's lots of studies on postoperative soft shell socket. There's lots of studies on above elbow soft shell prosthesis. And we've recently successfully held a fundraising campaign in the UK where we've managed to supply around 360 children under 10 with a free soft shell prosthetic. So,
I was hearing about that story, I think, from the children being fitted. Can you give us a sense of the time course from the child showing up to, let's call it an event, and then being able to do something with their new foot or whatever the prosthesis was?
So the time course on an upper limb prosthesis was around about 1 to 2 hours from arriving at the event, being measured and receiving a prosthetic, and then leaving at the end of it.
My goodness.
So it's a really quick turnaround.
You said 1 to 2 hours?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's amazing. Can you help us understand how that is possible?
So what they do in terms of the manufacturing of the prosthetic is that you will have a relatively simple, small, medium, large prosthetic for an upper limb amputation, for instance, below elbow. There's lots of other different prostheses that they're making at the moment. If we say it's below elbow, then there will be 2 measurements that we take, and then we can cut down our small, medium, large to whatever the residual limb length may be. And then on the end of that limb, we can add various tools that they manufacture themselves that could enable a child to grab hold of a handlebar on a bike, use a scooter, play an instrument, eat, drink, use cutlery, drawing, writing, painting.
Wow. All
the simple tasks where, with prosthetics and obviously all the carbon fibre shell or hard shell prosthetics, for children, it's not a great system. You know, kids outrageously grow all the time, and it's a bit of a drain on a healthcare system where, you know, obviously there's waiting times to be fitted with a prosthetic, and then obviously by the time you do get the prosthetic, the time that you get to use it properly before it becomes uncomfortable and then obsolete is pretty small. It could be a matter of months. So with the soft shell, they're a lot more affordable to manufacture and to supply, but also there's a lot of give, so they can expand. So you've got a little bit more give for the child. So in the course of a year to 14, 15 months, we would expect a child to use the same prosthesis.
And one of the other challenges is the less well-resourced world, Alex, I'm guessing, because, I mean, the NHS doesn't have a lot of money to spend, but it's got an enormous amount compared to many of the places where people are losing limbs. So I'm guessing that's an opportunity as well.
It is an opportunity. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I've travelled all around the world in my condition, and I've seen how lucky I am, really, with the National Health Service and what is available to me. But what I did expect when I was working with Nate at Imperial, it was all about the global prosthetic community. It was never about the UK. It was never about the US, because, you know, there are answers for people like us. You know, we can get hold of something, but what can we make for people in those countries?
Can you give us some numbers just so we can calibrate to that universe of world that would require, you know, these sort of prosthetic devices? What's the denominator?
I would think, in the UK, the problem with any kind of amputation is that numbers are very sketchy. There is no very well-informed table that we can go to and say, right, there's X amount of people that need a below knee prosthetic or an above elbow prosthetic. But in the UK, for instance, we found over the course of the last probably 14 to 15 months there's circa 1,500 to 2,000 people under the age of 18 that would require a below elbow prosthetic. So these are numbers that we didn't know they were that many, in all honesty. And it might not sound like a lot of numbers, but in the UK, that's quite impressive, really, when I've always been under the impression that it might be a few hundred at best. So now we're starting to encourage these people that have been either lost in a system or have never really thought about using a prosthetic on their residual limb because they've always had a hand do other work for them. It's about encouraging them to come forward because we need their feedback. You know, Koalaa was designed from a quadruple amputee perspective right at the beginning. What we need is to encompass partial finger, through wrist, below elbow, you know, long residual limb, very, very short, congenital limb difference, you know, all these things we need to learn about to help improve the product for the patient, the end user.
And Koalaa is the sort of generic name for the product line and is the name for the company as well, because I believe this is a fully formed, functioning company now.
It is now, yeah. So Koalaa is the generic name for the company. A lot of the arms that we've been supplying to the children in the UK has been the ALX, which Nate very kindly named after me. That's very sweet of him. I do feel a bit embarrassed about that. But and then the paw is something that we do for partial hand. But we've fitted paws to children as young as 6 months old. And then obviously I think our eldest user of a Koalaa is in the late 70s, I think. So it's a broad range.
Before I hand back to my colleagues for further questions, the trust, I see that there's a trust as well, that's on your
so Alex Lewis Trust.
Yeah, so I founded the Alex Lewis Trust because I wanted to be able to understand the equipment that I may require. And initially it was set up just to help me because I was in such a state, really, and we had a lot of support. But it's evolved over the years where it means that we can now do a lot of public speaking about what we do with Koalaa, with various startups that we spur out of universities with. And it's all about that end user led driven design, which is something that I'm very passionate about. And at the moment, Koalaa is by far leading the way with listening to the end user and then developing their ideas into something quite tangible in an incredibly short space of time and virtually. You know, we ran a clinic. I think every day we made an arm for the entire year through lockdown. Now, I don't know many, if any, other prosthetic companies that could say they've done that through that pandemic period.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Go ahead.
No.
So I appreciate that there's focus, and you shared with us children to 70 years of age. The Department of Defense is just a flashpoint that keeps going through my mind. Has there been connectivity? That seems to me to be a demographic that could be served very well by these tools. So we haven't been in contact with the Department of Defence in the UK, but we have worked with various injured servicemen who are now starting to use our prosthetic because we want to see how rugged it can become. There's a few gentlemen that we've got lined up who are quite prominent in the UK that will be taking various different iterations of the Koalaa and trying it in some pretty far-flung destinations. But I think one of the more important things we're trying to create at the moment is a post-operative socket. Now, for instance, when I lost my right arm, I waited, I think it was 10 to 12 weeks before I had my first fitting for my below elbow prosthetic. Now, in the last 4 or 5 months, we've had 2 gentlemen who have become below elbow amputees, courtesy of my surgeon, Alex Crick, in Salisbury. And we were able to get prosthetics, a soft shell prosthetic, onto them post-op 7 days after their amputation, which meant they were able to use cutlery, they could communicate with a loved one with a stylus on an iPad, and they were able to, more importantly, I think, understand what it's like to wear a prosthesis, understand what it's like, what visually it looks like, what it can do, what it can't do, all under the watchful eye of my surgeon Alex Crick and the hand specialists in Salisbury.
But it means that... Sorry, go on.
Alex, I'm sorry for interrupting. I thank you for bringing the sort of focus of the discussion to the perioperative domain, and I understand the value proposition of that timeline post-operatively. But I would guess personal experience and your sort of existential personal experience of the perioperative place where to even begin to teach somebody preoperatively what their expectations should be for a prosthetic fit postoperatively must be amazingly important.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I had no use of any arm until I was probably a year down the line of amputations. And in that year, you felt that you were rendered useless. You didn't want to become a burden to your family. Sorry, that's my little dog.
That's okay.
Please bring him back in.
It's cute.
Yeah, Molly, you're on camera. But it was, for me, it was about independence. And I wanted to be able to eat on my own. I wanted to be able to drink on my own, to be able to go to the loo on my own. And unfortunately, without prosthesis, these were not feasible with the extent of my amputations. Now, I was not in any position to get any kind of pre-op care because of the nature of my infection. But for flail limb that may elect to amputate, then we can get in there really early with these guys and actually talk to them about the prosthetic, talk to them about what they may want post-op, and work in conjunction with the consultants and the hand specialists and the plastics team to actually deliver something very, very quickly, which is actually a benefit to the patient immediately. Rather than just delivering something that is generic, we can actually tailor something that they may have a hobby that they want to carry out while they're in hospital. It could be anything, but we want to be able to try and tackle those problems and make sure they get the best prosthetic chance, I think, post-op, and also develop then the adoption rates further down the line for better prosthetics in terms of hard shell, for split hook prosthesis, for myoelectric, bionic, whatever it may be next.
Yeah. Alex, forgive my ignorance. I mean, this is not a space that I'm familiar with at all. I mean, the prosthesis that have been available up until this time, is Koalaa similar to those? Is this like kind of next generation? Tell me just a little bit about that.
Well, it's really designed around the trainer. I said to Nate years ago that I'd want something like a slipper that I could use. So when I met Nate, I had a carbon fiber socket, and I'd wear it from 6:30 in the morning to midnight at night, 7 days a week. And I said to him that I'd want something, if I came home from London, for instance, and I wanted to sit in front of the TV and sit on my sofa, I'd want to take my hard shell prosthetic off, just like you take off a high heel or a very, very nice brogue, and you want to put something comfortable on your feet. Well, that's how I feel when I want to take my prosthetics off. I want to put my arm in something comfortable, and I still want to be able to carry out 2 or 3 different tasks. I mean, for me, one of the most important things in my world is that I have a wine glass holder, which at the end of every night gets a lot of use. I mean, there is a good reason, because we do have a wine business as well, but it was something where I could sit in front of the TV and know that I had a wine glass in my Koalaa soft prosthetic, and I knew that I wasn't going to drop it because I wasn't worried about my cabling system from the body powered aspect, and I knew I could put it on the table and pick it up as and when I wanted to. So it gave me great pleasure, and that was just one tool, one device.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like the second question I have is it sounds like it really has been a game changer for you. You were telling us before we went live about all the different activities that you're doing, and a lot of people that lose limbs want to be able to continue or maybe get into new, areas of life, and so this sounds like it's been a game changer for you.
It has, yeah, and I think what's the best thing for me is that from a mental health standpoint, being able to work on something and develop something that I will want to use in the future has been a great benefit. It's made me understand just what I want from a prosthesis as and when I want it. It's made me understand that there are pitfalls and how we overcome those. I wasn't just relying on somebody to say to me, right, this is what you're going to get and you're going to make the best of it. I'm in a position now where I can say, actually, no, I don't want that, because I know that attachment is not going to work for me. So can we try and design something else So it's quite tailored. And then if it means that I can, go out rowing with it, if I can hand cycle with it, if I can kayak with it, all those different things, then, we have a whole, Nate's got books and books and books of sketches of all sorts of things he wants to create. So, it's an exciting time, I think, for prosthetic users, because for years we have just normally had a plastic or a carbon socket, and it's been very limiting. And I think this is quite an inclusive way of, ending up with a good prosthesis. And for children, it's all about empowerment, really, and inclusivity. And it's really aided those guys in the Project Limitless in the last 18 months.
So if I may, Desiree, because I can see the clock is starting to be against us. Alex, we're going to encourage everyone to look at I'm guessing there's a website for the company. Well, I know there's a website for the company Koalaa. And I'm guessing there's a link as well for your trust. I want us to jump ahead. Yep, go on. Sorry, Alex.
No, you carry on, Monty. Sorry,
I wanted to jump ahead to one of the challenges that I think you're building up to, which is the Talisker Challenge, which many people may not know about, which is rowing, as far as I understand, rowing across the Atlantic. I've been involved with it before from the fundraising support perspective. I would not go anywhere near it and try it myself. But the people I know who've done it say it's much harder than, for example, climbing Everest. It's a grueling challenge. Don't want to build you up too much on this one, from a grueling challenge. And you, I think, are going to attempt it as a quadruple amputee. We'd like to know quickly a bit more about that, because we'd like everyone to think about supporting you to do that.
Well, a friend of mine and I, we set up something called the World Wheelchairs Project about 3 years ago. So I've already summited Ethiopia's highest mountain, Ras Dashen, but we used the university-built hand cycle, custom-built to me, and we cycled up the mountain back in 2019. And then we should have gone to Mongolia last year, but that's been delayed. So we were always going to do land, sea, ice, jungle, and desert. We were always going to do something in that ballpark. So we tick the mountain and we'll tick the desert next year, but the Atlantic for me will be the sea aspect. And I'm working with an amazing company called Ranek, who are designing. I kind of came to them with a crazy idea that a guy with no arms and legs wants to give rowing a go. And I don't think the owner of the company believed me until he saw me, and then he kind of got it, I think. But we're doing a fundraising event next year for training, where we go from Falmouth to Dover, and I'll be holding public speaking events on the water in the afternoons. There'll be events in the evening with some chefs on boats and some nice wine and sundowners, and a more inclusive event. But that's my kind of easygoing training for 2023, when we attempt to, hopefully become the first quadruple amputee to row across the Atlantic. So that's the big goal for 2023.
And I'm guessing we want lots of people to give lots of money.
Yeah.
We could do with lots of people giving lots of money. That would be incredible. I'm very fortunate that I get to live a very adventurous life, and I think if I can help some other people along the way while I do it, then it's a great place to be.
All right. Well, Alex, for everyone listening and watching, give us some websites that we can find, or the ways to link up.
So if you head to www.koalaprosthetic.com,
and that's Koalaa.
Koalaa Prosthetic, or head to, I think it's Koala Community on a lot of their social media handles. Okay. I think you guys have got them. I haven't got them in front of me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then you can just Google the Alex Lewis Trust, and Koala's on there, and we're all it's a small community, so just keep an eye out for us on Instagram and social media as we try and ramp up what we want to try and help in terms of prosthetic development.
And where do we go to give money, Alex? Is that all easily identifiable in there, the links through to donate?
Yes, it is, yeah. On my website, the Alex Lewis Trust, or on the Koalaa website for Project Limitless, they're all there. And any support is gratefully received. Beautiful.
All right, Alex, thank you so much for having this very important conversation. I hope we can move mountains and help here.
No, you're very kind. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today, and it's much appreciated. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated.
Very inspiring. Thank you.
Very inspiring. Thanks so much. And thanks for listening
Thank
and
you.
watching Top Med Talk. You know, you can find us at TopMedTalk.com. We, in the show notes, whenever we put this out on the podcast, we'll have all those links for you. So it's really easy. You could just hit that button and give to the Alex Lewis Trust. Thanks so much.
Top Med Talk.
Thanks for downloading Top Med Talk. Don't forget to subscribe via your podcatcher. Don't forget to check us out on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And also, don't forget, Top Med Talk is the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, Evidence-Based Perioperative Medicine. We'd love you to find out more about that. If you check out ebpom.org, you can find low prices on some of the conferences we're organising around the world. Many of them are virtual and don't even involve you leaving your own home. Check out ebpom.org now.